Posted by you/adventurous aside 600. My fiancé has the biggest heart. He would literally give you the shirt, pants, and hat off his body if you ask for it. He's a recovering people pleaser, and I understand because I also used to be a people pleaser. We've been together for over 5 years. A few months ago, I started noticing his best friend making some not so nice comments towards me. I'm trying to be vague, but let's just say this friend is the type to figure out who in the room would be most affected by being picked on, and then he picks and picks and picks on them until they can't take it anymore. Nobody ever really holds him accountable for this, and unfortunately, I have somehow become his favorite target. I tried to put up with these comments, but they started getting really elaborate. The friend would make up lies about me, claiming I said things I never did. He once called me in front of all our friends, my fiancé included, just to yell, "You're a bad friend," into the phone and then hung up. There's so much more to it that I can't share because I'm trying to remain somewhat anonymous. It started affecting me and my mental health, and I ended up having a full breakdown where I told my fiancé how much this was all starting to hurt me. The first time I broke down over this, my fiancé said he would talk to his friend about messing with me less. He then told me his friend was sorry and that he'd be keeping an ear out for any other comments, promising to jump to my defense if it happened again. A few weeks later, the friend provoked a very specific childhood trauma for me, and I had a second breakdown in front of my fiancé. He then admitted that his friend didn't actually apologize. Instead, he said he was sorry I was too sensitive to understand his humor. At that point, I told my fiancé that my friendship with this person was over, and that I wanted zero contact from here on out, even if it meant missing out on events and parties that I'd otherwise love to attend. He agreed with me that all of this is being done with the intention of getting a rise out of me, and that even if we try to get through to this friend, he's so diabolical that we could never fully trust him not to treat me at least a little bit poorly. My fiancé kept asking if this meant he had to quit the project they're working on. I told him I would never tell him he had to, because I know how much it means to him, but in all honesty, the fact that this person is treating me so poorly that I'm having physical stress reactions, and that isn't enough for him to want to cut this person off, does hurt a lot. The fact that it isn't a deal breaker for him is probably always going to sting a little. He's not confrontational at all, and I always knew that, but it's not about confrontation. It's about standing in my corner, and I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who isn't in my corner. This friend is getting married to my best friend in a few months, and we're both supposed to be in the wedding, but I really have no clue how to handle it. I get a literal knot in my stomach anytime his name is even mentioned now. I've seen this friend one time since all of this came to a head, and he was so over-the-top nice to me that it came off as arrogant. I had the second breakdown a few days afterward, because I realized I might spend the rest of my life on edge and on guard anytime this person is even somewhat in my vicinity, even if they aren't actively messing with me. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that my fiancé was willing to lie to me on his crappy friend's behalf, but he's not willing to stand in my corner against him. I think it'll always hurt. This guy was supposed to be the best man in our wedding, and as a result, we haven't been talking much about wedding plans. I think if my fiancé is still planning on having this friend in our wedding, I may have to call it off for my own sanity, and that sucks so bad. This is eating me alive. I love my fiancé so much. I love his big heart and the way he loves with all of it. But he loves some truly wretched people, and I don't know if he'll enforce any boundaries with those people before the lack of boundaries becomes too much for me to handle. I'm just hurt and hurting. I just want whatever outcome to play out so I can stop feeling so guilty and awful all the time. Update 1 month later. Never thought I'd actually update this account out of sheer embarrassment, but I wanted to share this for those who encouraged me to put myself first. I want you all to know my partner absolutely came through and protected me in this. We spent all the time since my last post up until last week communicating, trying to find a resolution, and walking through how it got this bad. He took a lot of accountability for that. This is not a case of me giving in. He fully understands that this only got so bad because it was never handled correctly, and he had a major hand in that. There were so many more layers to this than a Reddit post ever could have conveyed. The bottom line is that we are closer than ever, and after a lot of talking, we decided on my partner sending a firm but not unkind message to his friend, explaining the behaviors, explaining that they were hurting his partner, and that it needed to stop. He offered to write up the first draft, and we could go over it together to perfect it. Reddit, please know that the first draft my partner wrote was so spot on, exactly what I needed to read, that it instantly shifted us into us versus the problem mode after we'd been stuck butting heads for weeks. He laid everything out so clearly and in ways we hadn't discussed before, so I know it came from him. We had to tone down a lot of the big emotions, but we truly gave the message its best shot at addressing the situation without being hostile. We knew the response would be bad no matter what, but I don't think anything could have prepared us for what happened. This man went full scorched earth and blew up everything almost immediately. He insulted my partner, claimed the events didn't happen the way I described, and demanded they meet up alone with a mediator. He even threatened to reach out to my partner's parents to fill them in, which was probably the moment we stopped taking his responses seriously. We're all almost in our 30s, and he threatened it not just once, but twice. We actually had to call my partner's parents to warn them that he might show up at their place later this week, and not to open the door. There's still a good chance he'll attempt it. We stayed respectful throughout all of this, which I feel good about. We didn't stoop to his level, didn't insult anyone, and simply asked for basic human respect, yet somehow it still blew up spectacularly. In the end, both of us received a massive wall of text from my, now ex, best friend, fully backing up her man and telling her side of the story, which is so insanely far from what actually happened that all I can do is laugh. We've been shifting from crying, to being dumbstruck, to just straight up laughing at the absurdity. I went into this thinking she was brainwashed, but it turns out I was wrong. They're a perfect match. I wish them all the best. I'm sending them one last message to set the record straight, which my partner and I decided together was the best approach apart from just ghosting, before moving on from this entirely. I'm going to make it very clear that this is done. Zero contact indefinitely, and I will never look back. My partner and I both deserve much better friends, and we both see that so clearly now. I'm so glad I learned my friend's true colors before we dropped $800 on a hotel for their wedding. Thank you to everyone who was kind. Not only did I put myself first in the end, but my partner did too. We're going to take this week in stride, process it all, grieve the friendships we once thought were forever, and at the end of the week, we have a conveniently timed vacation at my partner's family cottage. I think we're going to come out of this stronger because we already feel it. Again, thank you to those who had something productive to say. I've made my peace with all the rest. I guess if the guy does something else outlandish, maybe I'll update, but for now, this chapter is closed, and I'm so ready for it to start collecting dust. Commenter. I'm extremely sorry this all happened, but I'm also happy that your partner gave you his full support here. As for the ex-best friend, I've seen this before, and I'll bring it up just in case it's needed. Sometimes victims of abusive manipulators end up seemingly doing a 180 to their normal behavior and supporting their abusers against everyone else. This doesn't mean they are evil themselves, but rather that they have been brainwashed. Your fiancé had you to talk to and explain how crappy his ex-best friend is. Your friend has no one close enough, apart from spending 24 hours per day with the psycho, and you don't know what crap he's feeding her, with the end goal of cutting her off from any loving friends, so that she only has him, and he can abuse her freely. I'm obviously not saying this is 100% the case here, just throwing it out for your consideration. Ops response. You know, I definitely went into this thinking exactly what you just laid out. But I refuse to set myself on fire to keep her warm, and the things she said in her message about my partner are irredeemable. She can never be a part of our lives again after what was said, out of respect for me and my partner, even if any part of me wanted to hold out hope for her. I hope this is a wake-up call for her, but it won't be me on the other line.